Everyone all set? Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's school board meeting. This December 13th. Will you all join me for the pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have public participation. At this point, do we have anybody from the audience? Not seeing anybody. Coming up to the mic. Anybody from this board? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to the meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes of November 15th.
Making a motion to approve the November 15, 2021 public session along with non-public session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
One
That was
abstention.
not here.
Next, I guess the question is, do we want to move up, we have Eric here for the new business for football. Do we want to move that up before we get into budget discussion?
Might as well.
Second. All in favor?
Okay.
Come on up, Eric. We don't need to keep you out all night. Just have to.
Perfect. I appreciate it. When I was hoping. All right. Okay, so I'm here tonight to give you a little bit of update on my ideas and where would like to propose for football for the next coming school year fall season. So that'd be 2022. In the past month, I put out to the community my school population here in survey Google form, asking if they're going to be playing for the next coming school year, meeting the fall of 2022. In that survey, I was able to get 18 kids from Farmington, grades 9 through 11. I did put it, obviously not seniors, because they're not going to be here next year. So that's for 9 through 12. I did put it out to 8th grade as well. I didn't receive any. I was more on foot in the high school to make sure they filled out that survey, so I didn't get anyone from 8th grade. I know there are a few that are interested, but weren't captured on the survey. So I have 18 students from Farmington. We are a co-op currently with Newt. I did reach out to them to do the same. They currently have 9. So my math's not correct, but it might be around 27. That's okay. So about 27 in the program. Within those, at least the 18 from Farmington, about 3 or 4 of them have football experience. So that being the concerning thing, for what I would like to propose is for us to, this would be a new cycle year, which means that every 2 years we do a classification cycle, which kind of dictates the schedule for the next 2 years. But I'd like to propose us to do a JV program for the next 2 years to help build up those fundamental skills, the lack of experience, and to build a culture of competitiveness, so that ultimately the goal being to get back up to the varsity level. There's a lot more flexibility when you're in a JV squad, not so much mandation of schedules and how many games, etc. You have a little more flexibility where we can start to build the program, which is what I build, that culture of, being competitive, having success on the field, and currently with not much experience, building that experience up. So I'm coming here to kind of look at my intentions to propose it for a JV team. Obviously, some of the things when you propose a JV team, that means there's no varsity opportunity, which, for some, that if they're, so for that 18 kids, I think there were 5 of them that will be a senior next year. 4 of them that will be a senior next year that won't be able to do a varsity season, so there will be no NHIA tournament. So those are like the implications when you do a JV team. We can go to a tournament, a JV tournament, but there won't be a NHIA varsity tournament. So those are kind of those things when you make a decision that you now limit those seniors ultimately from being able to do that varsity season. If that makes any sense.
So Eric, you're proposing that entering all these students would be one team of JV until we get a couple seasons under our belt to where we feel that we can field a varsity team also?
Yeah, field it more consistently with the numbers and start to build a culture of, well, the fundamentals of the sport as well, because when you have new kids and you're learning the sport and then all of a sudden you're going against juniors or seniors that have been playing it for at least 2+, 3+, whatever's underneath them, years of experience, it's hard to, have a culture of being competitive, and there's obviously a safety issue when you have a bunch of kids that have never truly learned the form of tackling, in the sense of when you're dealing with other people that are really coming after you, the junior JV level, that's typically where a lot of those fundamentals are learned, because a lot of programs, especially Division 4, don't have the middle school program. We don't either. We have to go out to Rochester, but a lot of teams are like that, but some of them have that JV level that they're able to learn some of those fundamentals.
So in this JV team, we would field kids even though they're juniors and seniors.
Correct. Yep.
And they would play, but they
Yep.
just wouldn't be eligible for a varsity tournament
Yeah.
if it's held.
Yeah. So typically, like in a best world, you have your varsity team and then you have your JV team, both playing at the same time. One's playing JV schedule, one playing varsity. That varsity team ultimately gets that. If they qualify, they can qualify for the tournament. Doesn't mean they make the tournament. To me, if we win varsity, we wouldn't qualify for the tournament anyways, because the lack of experience, skill, and competitiveness that we've been showing the past, since 3 years since I've been here, but I know throughout the program it hasn't been.
Other questions?
And I think we're looking at, if we were to go to varsity, if suddenly we have a big shift, potentially field both a JV and a varsity, but I think right now we're looking at either being a JV team or a varsity team. If we continue to have soccer as well, I don't think we have the numbers right now to do both at JV and varsity for both sports. That's a lot for fall.
Other questions or comments, Joel?
I think it's a valiant effort to perhaps save a sport that I think is dying. Since we lost Middleton, we lost a lot of athletes. We lost those numbers. So really haven't successfully fielded a team with decent numbers anyway. And then COVID was the nail in the coffin. And I think it's a good way to try to potentially bring it back. If there's an interest, we'll know, they'll do a 2-year cycle. We do not have the numbers, and we'll never see varsity JV at the same time. It'll be one or the other. This could at least keep kids competing. Yeah, they wouldn't be eligible for a state tournament, but quite frankly, other than the COVID year, which they didn't play, they haven't been eligible in quite some time anyway. So, it's a way to see if we can save the sport. I think it's a few less games than a varsity schedule, isn't it? So
Yeah, there's really no mandation of how many games you play anyways.
I don't think there's enough JV team. Would you play into other divisions?
Yeah, we would have to reach out to like the D3,
Yeah.
who typically has the JV teams. Not all Division 4 schools have them. Probably about 50%, maybe under that, would actually have a JV team in Division 4. But again, it's, we will be fielding a lot more, older kids on a JV team than typically juniors will be the highest level of JV competitors on any other JV team. Because that's the typical rule.
Motion to approve. I make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
You had something?
Well, just of the kids, the 18 kids here, 9 from Newt. I don't know if it was an anonymous survey, just interest type situation. Are those kids that were playing soccer or just not, like, where were those kids last year when we had 5 kids showing up every day? I guess?
So it wasn't anonymous, and names were provided. Of that list, of the 18, there was 1 there that did play soccer this current year. So, and that's been a student that's had actually switched back and forth the past couple of years. But other than that, it's solely students that want to play football and have only come out to football only. And I've had, and I was, obviously cautious of them just putting out saying, yeah, I'll do it, sure. I also, with the students there, I did follow up with them and talk to them to really get them to see if they're going to truly commit to something like that. And then everyone that was on that list really wanted to do it.
So on this 27 potential kids, what do you think the real turnout's gonna be?
So we'll turn out like,
Like,
yeah. Well, I think,
it's kind of a follow-up question.
well, I guess,
Do you think it's gonna be 21,
I would
23?
say it'd be like 20 to 23.
Okay.
I think probably, like 5 to 6 of them will just, fall through because a lot of the biggest difficulty with fall sports is it starts up before school does.
Right.
And that's a big thing with any 8th graders coming up.
But Charlie, if I may, you had 0 8th graders express an interest.
That filled out on the form, yeah.
Yeah, that shocks me, because that's usually where the interest comes from. We're usually heavy on the freshman side, but as Eric just pointed out, it starts before school starts. And so what ends up happening is school starts and then kids see kids with their gear on. It's like, yeah, man, I want to try this. You could actually grow from that projected 21 to 23.
Yeah, the 8th graders, didn't put my feet on the ground like I did at the high school. Like a lot of the 8th graders just are not as, they don't use their emails, and fill out the Google form as much as a high schooler would.
Yeah.
But I know I've had a couple parents and kids ask about, because I did send it to the community that they.
Do you allow, so if the season starts early, is there a cutoff time when somebody could sign up, say like after school started and said, hey, oh, I didn't know that was available, I think I want to sign up?
Well, it's kind of on a scenario. If we have a bunch of kids and they've all committed to that, and there's usually is a cutoff here. We try to, we don't just say come on in whenever you want, because we don't want, that's not really how you sustain a program. But a situation when you're in a JV situation, varsity, you have to commit or not commit, kind of like how we had decided not to because we don't have enough. And, some community members are like, well, if they just keep going as they come, and that's at the varsity level, you can't do that because you have to put in schedules and you have to commit to schools, and it puts a big hole. As a JV, you typically, you can allow a little more flexibility with that. Typically, I'd rather not have any, but just to make it very well known. And this summer, we didn't have a coach to do some summer sessions to get kids involved like a typical program would be. So,
Yeah, I do agree with your concern for safety. I did play, midgets back in my day, and I think with the
Last year.
Sorry. So, but anyways, I think especially with the experience and the speed ratchets up the force and safety concerns, with a more experienced team, it puts us at a disadvantage on experience, which does lead right to safety. When it gets to a higher level of competitiveness with experience, things are happening a lot quicker, a lot more force. So I do agree with that. Any other discussion on the motion, which is to approve? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Right.
thank you.
Eric,
So that was
Tote,
10.
thank you.
Joel, you seconded that, right?
What?
Did you second?
I seconded it, yeah.
Thank you.
It'll be an extra credit question to figure out anybody can guess the position that I played.
You want that on camera or off,
It doesn't
Charlie?
matter.
Water boy?
Not left out.
Wow. Tough crowd.
It's all right. I can take it.
I'll get it back.
Okay, moving on next to budget.
So you have in your folders the default budget and the letter from our attorney who went through that with Brian and me last Wednesday. And at this point, we'll take any questions that you have. We went through for, the default budget is essentially this current year's budget minus any one-time expenditures plus any contractual obligations or obligations under the law. And so the budget that you have is what we have
So
gone
the default
through.
budget is 607,000 over our proposed budget.
Yes, 607, 746, 68. Yep.
Now, I know, was it last year, 2 years ago? There was some discussion, I think Neil Johnson brought up some of these questions about these areas that might be in the gray area of the default budget, at least what he felt.
Yep.
Do you think we're going to get some of those questions this year, or?
There may be questions.
Okay.
The budget committee does not set our default budget like it does in some communities. And the questions that Neil had were ones that he and I sat down, we went through the budget and I said, you see it this way. Our attorney has given us that, yes, this is allowable. And basically there were a couple of lines that we agreed to disagree on. Last year, I don't think there was any question. And, we went through, it's pretty straightforward. The biggest piece is the fact that, there are some pieces that have shifted because we have shifted staff, but this gets set based on what we have this year. And so that's where a big portion of that difference comes in.
And those positions that are moved into ESSER, they're planning moving into ESSER,
Right.
or have moved into ESSER. In the default, they have to stay. They actually have to stay in there. Because they're required, so we're required to fund it just as if,
So some of that 607 is because, a lot of that is because of
Yeah.
that requirement.
absolutely.
Probably
A good chunk of it.
2/3 of it?
I think that's safe.
Yeah, that's a pretty good number.
Tim?
Neil's got a good eye for numbers. In fact, on a regular budget, he spotted, I think it was an $18,000 error on our part. I think what our plan should be is to approve the default tonight. But I'd like it sent to Neil. saying,
Sure, yeah,
hey,
I'm happy, I will-
Here's the default budget, here's the numbers.
Once
Let
we
me know
have
if
a
you have
vote,
any
yep.
concerns. And if he finds an error, we can always reconsider our vote on the default and change it if we have to.
Right. Yeah, I will, once we have a vote, if there's anything that you see, certainly I can address that as well. And then I can send that to the budget committee in the morning. They don't typically jump into a lot of the discussion with the budget presentation. It's just I present. And then when we go back for the following week, when it's the meeting, they may have some questions at the workshop. We have to get this to them by, you'd need to vote the 3rd at the latest on any changes so that they would have it on January 5th, which is a week ahead of our public hearing. So it gives a little bit of time, but I wanted to get it to you as soon as we could.
Moving on.
Well, before you move on, I need a vote.
Which one? The default?
Yeah,
Okay.
you need to either accept it
Okay,
or
so
tell me what you
let's
want
move
to
to the
change.
default. Does anyone have any questions or concerns with the proposed default budget?
Just happy with Eric's review.
Okay. Anyone else? Call the question. I'll make a motion to approve the default budget as proposed.
Second.
Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
And you're gonna forward that to Neil and the entire, budget committee?
Typically, I forward it to Jody, who
Okay.
disseminates it, but I can give him a copy if you wish me to do.
Yeah, I mean, it might make sense to, if you have everyone's email, to send it to everyone, so we're not.
I don't, so that's why I usually give it
But
to
that way,
Jody.
send it to the ones you have and ask Jody to forward to ones you don't.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, sure she may procedurally just send it to everybody, but.
Okay, will do.
Okay,
The other portion of the budget, I have not yet received anything back from Eric on the warrants.
Okay.
He was in depositions all day long
yeah, we
today.
know we had a list of things, and I had asked you to send them an email, which you did, kind of prioritizing what we need as far as
When
the
we have
list.
to have it, yeah.
So I know we did get some stuff from him, but we're trying to focus on the biggest priority, which
Right.
we have a little bit of time in this one.
But I think this was low-hanging fruit as well. So, because we had already done most of the lifting on that, so, which is why we got this one now. I anticipate that I will have that probably midweek, and we'll get that to you as soon as we have it so that you can process for next week.
So agenda item for next week on warrant articles? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm hoping,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, we
Yeah.
gotta finish that up.
I guess my question is, do you want any type of draft as part of presentation on Wednesday? Or,
I'd rather give them a list of what we're potentially looking at.
I mean, we could give them the list as we had been working on it.
okay, so just the list of topics?
Draft, you mean?
Yeah.
The draft.
Well, rather than the draft, just a list of
List
topics?
of topics.
Okay,
Whatever makes, yeah.
Bullet points and amounts, but I mean, the big thing is until we vote,
To put them on there, no.
right, it's,
Right.
so I can add another slide that says this is what the board is currently considering?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what
And
you
you can say,
have,
considering we have, I mean, we've amended some of those amounts or had discussions, so
Right.
whatever the discussion was left off is fine.
okay,
You know, as a tentative number, if we talked about decreasing it, or, I mean, it may be, this is the number that was proposed, and the board has discussed potentially decreasing it, or this is the amount, and the board has discussed increasing it, based upon the minutes.
and part of that may just be, here's the topic, and we're waiting to see where we land, so,
I
okay,
mean, historically, I'd just like to say these are the areas we're focusing on, and the board hasn't decided, because until we take the vote, you don't know which way it's going to
Right.
sway out. Things could change.
yeah.
Right.
So, yep, I can certainly add that. You have a draft of, that's right there in front of you. Your hand is on it, Charlie. Some of the slides that I'm looking at, a number of those you have already seen as part of your budget binder. I kept it fairly short and fairly simple because we haven't gone into a whole lot of dog and pony show. I tried to keep it, here's where we are, here's what we have. The only difference in the past, we've had some breakout by department, but we're not looking to have department chairs do any type of presentation. You said pretty much it was me.
Right. Now,
So-
that's this Wednesday.
That's this Wednesday,
Okay.
6 o'clock. Would you like that posted as a meeting?
Well, I'm going to try to rearrange my schedule to be there.
Okay.
Tim's there as a member. Is anybody else planning on being at that meeting, or?
I can be.
I don't think it's necessary, but I'd like to be there in case I need to backfill any additional, just, description or
I'll let you
information.
present it if you want to.
What's that?
I'll let you present it if you want to.
I don't want to take away your thunder.
It's okay, you know?
You know, I've done it at the last meeting, and I think that I can at least add anything that maybe is sitting in the audience, I think may have been missing in the presentation as far as background.
Sure.
Because you're more familiar, it's more like, okay, I dealt with this every day, and some of the board members may not have heard it more than the first time that you present it, so.
Can I just make a comment on the slides?
Sure.
We pretty much level funded this year over last year, correct?
Actually, it's even less. It's about $64,000 less.
So the first slide should be what our current budget is now
Yep,
and what we're proposing.
yep.
Right.
And then everything else systematically falls into that.
And actually, I changed some of this, and you didn't get the changes, so I printed them off. Yep.
I think that's important because they want to know where does it stand comparatively, and
Yeah.
that's just, okay, so it's in line or up or down, and then when they listen to the rest of it, they're not looking to say, okay, what's the impact, They already have the impact.
And
And how we
actually, that
got
was
to
changed,
that,
but I'll
it's
get it to you.
information that they may not absorb 100%, but they can go back at a later time. So I agree with Tim.
Yep.
Anything else, Tim?
No, I'm good. I'm good with what she has.
Would you post it because I'm gonna do my best to be there.
Okay, yep, I will post the meeting.
That could put us
Well,
over.
Right.
I will ask Sarah, we'll post the meeting, but the meeting will be posted.
Yeah, that way if people want to show up, they can, and,
In a pickle.
Or if she wants.
you never know, there might be coffee and donuts.
Are you bringing them?
I've been spreading a rumor. I started the planning board, trying to get some more volunteerism. I said, maybe if we can get coffee and donuts at the meeting, so I'm spreading a rumor. Not volunteering yet, but you never know, somebody might pick it up.
BYO.
We can fill the meeting if you want the meeting filled.
What else? Regarding budget?
And that was pretty much what I had.
Okay,
I can make stuff up.
no, you don't have to. We can always seem to find enough work to fill our time here.
Can we go back to, when you move forward, can we go back to new business?
Yep, I have one also.
Okay.
I'll start. I did talk to our planner from Stratford Regional. He sent us a couple draft maps for the mile and a half radius. Ruth and I had a conversation. I think we centered on doing one radius from the flagpole at the high school to
Pretty much where it is now.
Okay, and to eliminate conflict if, families have students going to different schools. And I forwarded those to Ruth Allen. She was gonna meet with the bus coordinator and give us some feedback, but pretty much she'll be available once.
Yeah, we're still working through, because what we have, we can't zero down quite as detailed as I'd like to do, but we're close. So we're comparing maps right now
Yeah.
and doing the count out to see where we are.
Yeah, I mean, we can get it, just say what you wanna see different, and I'll have him spit out another version, which
Okay.
might be easier, because,
If I could get it down to where I can see the numbers, the house numbers, that would be awesome. If not,
is it
then we'll,
the PDF quality is not good enough to zoom up?
if I zoom down, it doesn't show.
Okay, so, yeah, we'll see if we can get that quality, so
Yeah.
when you do zoom it up, you do have that information, so maybe just on the quality
Okay.
of that, but you want us.
Yeah, we've got to start, we've started kind of looking to see. One of the things that we did see as we were doing the comparisons, currently, we have not counted walking anything that is on the other side of 11. Even though it does fall within the circle, we've not had kids crossing Route 11.
Okay,
And that's been, goodness, as far back as I can remember.
is that in writing anywhere?
We can put a transportation policy.
Yeah,
And the other thing I'd like to see is the state law requires we transport within, I think it's a mile.
2 miles.
2 miles, okay.
Yep.
So,
Right now, we do roughly a mile and a half.
yeah, but that mile and a half by, 2 miles is defined by per school. So if we make the single radius, let's say it's 1.8 miles from whatever our radial point is, within our policy, we should state that that's within the RSA of the 2 miles per school, if that makes sense.
So right now, we were going to have 3 concentric circles, one at 1.5, 1 and 0.5, just so they can get a reference. So you're proposing that we have one that's kind of at
I think,
maximum allowed by law?
I think we just leave the 1.5, it's where we are now.
Yeah, we'll leave the 1.5, but
Right.
but the way it's calculated now, it's 1.5 miles from Valley View. It's 1.5 miles.
It's been roughly 1.5 from the center of the campus.
So I think he
We
could
haven't
prepare-
done separate.
I think he could prepare that map.
Yeah.
I think it does say with, in essence, a circle that includes, at a minimum, the state requirement. Like you're saying, a 1.8 encompasses all.
As we look at it, I mean, the 1.5 actually goes into Milton, up in the upper corner, because the schools aren't central to the town. I mean, they're just off of downtown, but downtown is further north in the middle.
So, I mean, we have that. Like I said, if you, tomorrow we can just chat on those changes.
Yep.
And I'll call him, and then he'll put another draft that we'll send to the board, and then the board can look at it.
I guess kind of what I was looking at, Charlie, is the prior board set the 1.5 radius, which I'm happy with.
Right.
Now, that radius should go to the front door of the building, because that's where you're transporting the kids from.
Right, but the point that Ruth Allen picked, which is at the flagpole, which is in the parking lot, which is how far from the door.
Yeah, I'm fine with
And it's
the
roughly
flagpole.
the center of the campus for the three buildings. I understand what you're saying, and by state statute, we're way under it with the 1.5 mile.
I agree.
But looking at, so that we don't have a family who has students at Valley View Middle School and high school, the middle schoolers get picked up,
Right.
Valley View doesn't, and, you know,
But
if we stop there, we stop there.
I guess what in calculating that overall transportation area that we want to define, we've got 3 circles. So we're going to have to probably take the perimeter of those 3 circles to encompass whatever distance that is.
So you're saying it's a
This
2
is
mile
a
radius?
picture if you wanna,
At the 1.5.
I think, Charlie, when you asked if that's in writing, my guess is it's probably in minutes from around that 2002 timeframe when $1 million was cut from the Florida school district meeting.
that's when we cut out high school transportation as well.
But that's when the conversation started about, wait a minute, we can't have kids crossing Route 11.
Yeah. That is
We
true,
went,
you're
because
right,
we went from that 1.5,
right,
which they had practiced for who knows how long, to 2 miles.
yes,
And
we
then
did.
back to 1.5.
Well, yes, it went back to 1.5 after the budget was partially restored, but that year we lost high school transportation, it was pay to
Pay to play.
pay to play and pay to ride.
Yeah, I remember those years.
And it was, no, we won't have kids cross Route 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get what you did here with the different colors and the different radius,
Well, I didn't, but yes.
or
Right.
whoever did it. But what I'm saying is, if you go to each one of our buildings as close to the front door as you can get, and you draw a 1.5 mile
Yeah.
radius, you're gonna have 3 circles.
Yep.
Some of them are gonna intersect, and some of them are gonna go over that 1.5. So once we define where all those 3 circles go, that should be our radius to eliminate the problem you're talking about, being a student at the high school, being able to be transported, yet somebody from Valley View may not.
Well, and that's why we just went 1.5 to the middle of
So the way
campus.
you're describing would yield a radius that would be like,
A larger radius.
Well, not a larger radius, because you're just talking about those like 3 pieces in a bigger
Well, the other
circle.
question we gotta define is, that we have to look at when we're calculating this common radius, is where do the 2 miles from each building fall? And are we within,
The 1.5 is well within the 2 miles from each
because what's the
building.
distance between each building?
Yeah.
What is the distance?
Well, if you look at the map, you can kind of extrapolate because you've got you've got half-mile increments on the radius there.
but I looked at, because I actually built one, I wish I saved it, but I built one with the 3 circles. And I think when you look at it, and I'll
Okay.
do one tomorrow or try to resurrect it.
0.2 miles,
Roughly.
0.2 miles to Henry Wilson from here, roughly. So that would be, if you put a circle around the 3 circles that you're containing, it would be,
That would be a new recommended radius that we're gonna transport in, and it meets the statute. On a challenge.
But that would actually be, if we did that, so say that's a 1.7 mile radius,
It's
that would be in addition, that would be further than we're currently doing.
Correct.
so you would have fewer kids transferred.
But we don't have a current policy that defines it. Does our policy now define it from each school for each student, or it's really not clarified?
It's a vague 1.5. It
Okay,
doesn't
so it's not,
state from,
currently not clear enough.
I will concede that, yes.
So that would be the option if we take that approach, where you take the maximum radius of all those three circles, it could be 1 point, and I can have him figure that out. You don't need to, I'll have him show those. So that to put it in perspective, can you make me a map of the three circles at 1.5 radius and tell me what would be the encompassing diameter? And for reference, and the board could say, okay, that's okay, and that's
And
what
then-
we're gonna make.
And maybe
policy.
overlay that with the 2 mile circle to make sure that,
Yeah, you can show the 1 point, you can show what it is and then a 2 mile radius.
yeah.
You know, but the board may, because if we're using the 1.5 that's currently rough, 1.5, I think by policy, we're gonna need to firm that up, so
Right.
it would.
1.5
parents-
and this side of 11.
Well, if that's the board's decision, the board can
Right.
say, well, we wanna go out to 1.7 or whatever it is, to encompass all those, or what is that, or ask the question, what is that impact between 1.7, 1.5, and 1.0? I know you were looking at how many kids in each zone.
Well, yeah, we're looking at how many are in each concentric circle to see what it would add to needing to bus.
Right. So
And we can also look at making the other side of 11 part of, or keeping it within busing zone, because that's the other question. is
One of the
figuring-
questions that was posed to us was busing some students that are closer. And we could at least quantify if the board were to consider it feasible to drop it to, say, 1 mile radius, what would that student impact be?
We're gonna look at it, say, if we did everything, and so we include this circle, if we do only this circle out, or if we just continue to do this circle as we've been doing. Yeah.
And then if we add the map with the 1 point, whatever the maximum radius,
How many students would we not be busing if we moved it out that way?
because currently we're busing
Rough 1.5-ish, yes,
from this building.
yes.
So that's our current interpretation. That's not in a written policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And on a challenge, because a parent can appeal to DOE on a busing issue by statute. And we need the policy and the boundaries to be clear to show that we're following within that statute.
Well, how they can, but challenge it when we're within the state requirement?
Because the state requirement is 2 miles.
Right.
And so what we're busing is well within,
Right.
I agree,
That
but we
anyway.
have to, on a challenge, we have to be able to present
but
that the way we're
it's,
calculating it meets the RSA.
We should have a clear policy that this interprets how we're applying it. And I think that's what
Yeah.
Tim's saying.
Yeah.
He's not saying that,
But-
you know, we wouldn't survive a
as
challenge.
none of
The RSA would say 2.
right.
Right.
It does.
But
Yeah.
when we get the challenge, what are we gonna show up with?
Well, no, yeah, none of the schools is a half mile
So,
from the other.
but they're not necessarily gonna challenge an RSA, you mean they're gonna challenge an
Just-
internal policy?
Yeah. Or challenge it,
We don't
that
have
if they,
Or whether they're entitled to be transported.
are entitled to be transport, and we're gonna be asked for our policy and how we interpret it, and we're gonna show up with something that's not what it should be. It sounds like to me.
I,
And it's okay.
we're
we're
within
just gonna
state
improve it.
statute, but we're gonna make sure we're good.
We're
Yep.
gonna improve it. Because there's a concern brought by the taxpayer, and taxpayers, and when we can quantify what the impact to go to what we're currently doing to a reduction or an increase, then the board can make an informed decision. Simple as that.
The second thing for policy purposes is after we define a radius, we'd like to define our bus stops, and maybe we don't have to approve them every year. I think our policy does say we approve bus stops every year, if I remember correctly.
It would certainly be good to look at, especially when we have some areas that are subdivisions, private subdivisions, private roads. I would at least want to know how that's handled. Not saying I
And
disagree
part
or
of
not.
part of that is also in policy, but we'll.
Right, because it's sometimes the people you get to question because it's like, why am I different situation than somebody else? So if we know what the policy is, then we can answer questions from residents better. Anything else on that? So hopefully at the next meeting, we will have some more maps.
We have set aside time to dig into numbers, so.
Next on the new business. Tim? Just want to put it out to the board, and I've done it since I've been on this board. I think I've done it when I was on budget committee. The town has a capital improvement plan that, with the committees that we have going on the school side for school improvement, I kind of want to ask the board their opinion on whether CIP is really a process on the town side that we as a school district want to participate in.
Yeah, I'll stop you right there. Didn't we receive an email from them to see if we were going to put anybody on it?
We received an email asking who our representative would be and letting us know that we would only have one voting seat.
Okay. So you were the last representative?
Well, when we reorganized this board, I was named this, as far as I remember, I was named the CIP.
Right, but this year we have not named anybody yet.
I think we have.
No.
We did in March.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think originally it might have been Josh, and then it went over to me when Josh left.
So do we need to relay that information if you're still willing to do it to the town?
I want to talk to the board. If the board says it's something that benefits the school district, I'll be there in a minute. I just don't see, other than communicating with the selectmen saying, hey, we're looking at building a school in 5 years, which we're not, but that type of thing that's going to impact the tax rate, I just don't see any value in us there and their input on their side of running the town government. It's an advisory committee. They can do whatever they want. There's several committees. I don't see the benefit that we as a school district offer to the town.
Well, as a perspective from a school district, I can't disagree with that. But as a resident of the town, if you could have a voting opinion regarding whether you think it's appropriate for this capital reserve account or not. I mean, as an individual representative of the community, because I think in that board, that CIP, they're looking for other board members and other residents looking for, I think, a general. So in some ways, there may only be limited things that we would present from the school, major capital improvements, but I think if you wanted to participate in other areas as a resident, I think that would be appropriate, but.
Well, and
Can I ask you a question? Has there not been an effort recently, and I say recently, within the last couple of years, to have conversations about staggering big ticket items? That's how I remember it.
there was
I'll tell you my problem, Joel.
Yeah.
Back in February, prior to the election, the capital improvement plan said, we'd like to meet with the board once the board's seated.
select board.
Select board.
Yeah.
It's December.
Huh.
So, and it's an advisory vote. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything. It's different than the budget committee. And I just think there's so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
So do I want to commit my time to running, or the superintendent's time to learning enhancement, school safety, or do I want to sit in a meeting where my opinion doesn't really matter?
Well, it matters, but is it falling on deaf ears? Is that the concern? Or, I mean,
Mary?
that was too pointed.
I forwarded the email in regard to that.
Oh,
I see that.
I think if I had my druthers, I would rather that we work on our own capital improvement plan within here, because we become 1/8 of a pie when we go to CIP. If we have our own we work on it maybe twice a month or whatever, and forward any minutes to them, they're gonna get the same information and maybe even more information than if we have bodies in the building.
But our,
We've put forward a plan to them every year. Here's the capital expenses that we're expecting. That's been shared with them. It's been discussed with the CIP committee. As a seated member, I've been able to discuss things that are coming up, and in the past, vote. This basically says, there will be a voting member of the CIP board, so apparently they're not counting me this year, just the representative from the board. So I can attend, but I don't know that it's useful.
Did you vote in the past?
Yes, I did.
See, it was my understanding when Mr. Welford's, because Mr. Welford actually
restart.
spent a significant amount of time, but I didn't think he voted. I just thought he was there to just sort of talk about avoiding too many big ticket items in the same fiscal year or whatever.
Well, I voted and so did Arthur.
Okay.
So,
Arthur does too?
uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
And so if I'm not voting, then I would say probably he would neither.
But you're not sure,
I have the email that you have, so
in the meeting, so I'll have to review it.
it's from a couple of weeks ago, so
Yeah, it's not fresh in the top
it's okay.
yet, but.
Yep.
So what was your thoughts, Tim? To forward our intent and ask them if they need us to be in attendance to discuss our part? Let us know.
If they need something that deals with the school district, I'll be there in a minute. It's just, I think we've got too many, do I want to work 40 hours as a school board member? No. If I have to work 40 hours, I will. But it boils down to, at least with some of the committees that I have, I mean, if someone else wants to do it, they're welcome to it. It boils down to hours in the day. I've got budget, got learning loss, and then under old business, we're going to talk about, the SRO committee. And we're in a time where we're trying to move the district forward, and I think the superintendent needs to be at the SAU versus at an advisory. If we have a big project and we communicate that with the Board of Selectmen, absolutely. But I don't think we have to be at 5 or 6 meetings to do it on a board that only has a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. I don't think it's a good use of our resources.
So I guess if this is going to be somewhat of a change, I guess I'll make a motion to forward an email to the Board of Selectmen stating that we would like to provide any significant school CIP items to the subcommittee, and for them to, we'll be present if they have any questions regarding those items for us to discuss. On a, case-by-case basis, not at every meeting they may be discussing town stuff, which may not be relevant to us. So, there's a second discussion. Was that clear enough?
No less so than some. We're good.
Well, if it's as clear as that comment, I guess I'm. Not hearing any discussion. All those in favor? Okay, now getting on to, if that's the format that this board chooses, Tim, are you able to do that, or willing, or should we appoint somebody else?
No, that's fine. If we have a capital project, we almost can do that by email, and if they want somebody to appear,
We can do that.
they can appear, but I just,
And I'm certainly willing to go in that capacity. I don't have any problem with that.
Okay. I don't have, do we have an alternate to that?
I think Tim was the alternate. He
Yeah,
kind of became the default. So
I will volunteer to be the alternate, Tim can't go. If anyone wants that, unless somebody else wants it.
do we have
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Oh, yeah, I was hoping I was gonna fail. So, any discussion, all those in favor? Motion passes, I abstain, so I'll be the backup if Tim can't fill in because of his other committees that he's on. I will pinch hit as far as giving the CIP committee any information regarding the things that we give them as far as the school-related capital improvement plan. Any other new business?
I have one.
Mary?
Some people from town reached out to me when a post went around about an item called night lock door stops. I think it's in light of the fact that in the last 2 weeks, there have been 3 active shooting incidents in America. All of them having fatals. This type of item, if you look up night lock door stops, it's some kind of a device that gets bolted to the floor and it's activated in an active shooter situation. I have pros and cons about something like that happening, but I did tell the public that reached out that I would bring it up tonight.
I think, Charlie, I think it's deserving that the public knows that we're going to discuss it, but I think the rightful discussion should be non-public under safety and security, because the last thing we want to do is educate a active shooter on what we have in place and what we don't on camera. So I make a motion to table it till non-public under safety and security, if that makes sense.
Any discussion on a motion? Not hearing any, all in favor? So we will be addressing it, at least considering it. Anything else, Mary? Anyone else for new business?
Old business.
Well, I want to get some new
Still
business.
new business. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I heard the inflection.
hearing
I thought
any.
you were shifting. Okay.
Let's hear it, huh?
Okay.
Old business. I know Tim said he had one.
I've got a list.
Really? Oh, first time it happened. We're good.
15, so I don't forget.
15? Okay, keep track. Go ahead.
Vaccine clinic, can we get an update?
Yes, as of this morning, we had 143 who had expressed, or 143 looking for shots.
In what category? Total?
Total.
Okay,
So
it would be
it
anybody's
was
eligible.
across all age groups,
Okay.
primarily either first shots, primarily kids, boosters, everybody else. I've passed those numbers on to Stratford County Health. I'm gonna have a conversation with them. They're looking at having capacity to do that after the new year. I've also reached out to Huggins, who is not able to do it. And I needed the numbers to be able to possibly see if I can get the state van to come. So
So Huggins can't do it.
Huggins can't, state van is a possibility. I need to give them the
But
numbers
the other one just said after the first of the year
after the first of the year.
was who?
That's Stratford County Health.
Okay, Stratford County.
Did our previous one, they did a nice job.
Yeah, they did a very nice job with it, and we would be looking to do it as an inside as opposed to a drive-through, because I'm not looking to have the nurses at the hospitals.
Right, but that's the soonest they could do it is in the new year,
Yes,
which is 2 weeks away.
yeah,
And they were open to do it on Saturday.
they were, yeah.
Okay, Mary?
Another thing I caught today, Frisbee has set up, effective December 9th, which was last week.
Yep.
They have a new fixed vaccination site, Monday through Friday, 10 to 7, Saturday, 9 to 2. They are at Spalding Commons.
It's over by Little Caesars. It's behind Domino's over in that
Planet
area.
Fitness.
Oh, okay.
Planet
Good
Fitness area.
jobs.
So if we move forward with ours in January, that's another option for anybody.
Who wanted it now,
It's
yeah.
just walk-in.
Yep. I know
Walk-in
someone
could be
who went this last week. I think he waited an hour and a half.
So it's in that
but
plaza?
yes.
It's in the plaza. You're gonna go in,
The plaza.
in
Not
the
this,
plaza.
Planet Fitness that he's referring to
It's
as.
not in Planet Fitness, but it's in that
It's one of the
building.
vacant storefronts in that building. The old Globe Plaza for the people
Yeah.
that have been here forever.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Do you want to know what it was before that?
What was it, Mary?
S&S Grocery.
That's an expression.
No, actually,
Globe was next door.
yeah, Globe was next door. And then there was a S&H next to Rich's.
Oh, that's
Over at
okay.
where
You're right.
Hannaford is
It
now.
was Richards, yep. I
Yep.
stand corrected.
No purity supreme, but
Yep.
I digress.
Dave Moser ran
But
it.
anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know what the wait time is. I'm sure there are better times of the day than others, but I'm all for pursuing
Multiple
having our own.
avenues. Yep,
But I also wanted to,
Yeah, we had those kind of numbers.
Yeah, that's quite.
yeah.
And I think we can boost those numbers up if, and correct me if you're wrong, if that wasn't your intent, if we do it by appointment, we could feasibly open this to the town, correct?
Well, I sent it to our folks, but I also posted
Yeah.
it on Facebook.
Yep.
And so, and I wasn't capturing for registrations at this point, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it was school or
But
town or
that's our
both. but
intent.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. If you are within the sound of our voice, you can show up.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Next year.
Can we make a decision tonight to go with Stratford County the Stratford County Health and just set it up?
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
I mean, it's.
I'm meeting with
The other
them.
ones are unlikely to be better sooner.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And
And
so,
they've been here before.
yeah, I'm meeting with Ashley first of the week,
So
so.
we have a motion to go with Stratford, Cap, was it Cap?
Stratford County Health, Public Health,
Stratford County Health for another vaccine clinic.
yeah.
Was there a second?
I'll second.
Stacy seconded. Discussion. Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. Next, Tim.
Can we name the SRO, and what I wanted to put out to the board is, do we call it an SRO committee or do we call it an emergency management committee? And the only reason I'm saying it is, some of our pre-planning emergency plans, et cetera, that we wanted to update, we kind of decided to push forward until our SROs are seated. Some of those meetings, absolutely, they'll have to be there. Some of them, they may not, but there's other areas that we may need to address. I think it would make more sense to name a committee as an emergency management committee with our primary focus going into the committee as the SRO program.
I'm going to make that motion. Name the committee and appoint a full-time member and a backup. For a second.
I'll second that.
Right, seconds it. So we'll be starting a new committee called the Emergency Management Committee. Emergency,
Emergency management committee, I think will suffice.
yeah.
I guess my second part of that discussion is a prior business administrator was the emergency management director for the district, correct? On paper?
While I was on leave.
Okay. So you had, did she assume those duties so typically you are the emergency management director? Okay. With everything going on, do you want to create an assistant and have Brian attend the meetings and keep you in the loop, or do you want to attend those monthly meetings, which is what it's going to boil down to?
I think I need probably to at least be an ad hoc member. I will attend every meeting that I can.
Okay.
And if there's something where we have to do rock, paper, scissors, we'll do that. But
So do you want to name you as the primary and him as the alternate? Does that make sense, or?
Yeah, I think that makes sense because
Yeah.
depending on what may be going on, she may need other things, but depending on what's being discussed at that meeting, she may need.
Exactly. And I'm not, what I'm trying to look at is
you're protecting my time and I
your
appreciate that.
time management versus Brian briefing you when he brings you a Boston cream donut and coffee in the morning.
I'm missing out on all these donuts.
I was gonna say, he doesn't bring me many donuts, just,
Maybe he intends to.
he walks in his bag and walks straight past my office to his.
Make it to the kitchen, but they never make it to her office.
Yeah, no, they don't. I do like I do like the change in the name. I think it reflects really where we need to go with it.
Well, I think there's things that always, Tim brings up a good point,
Yeah.
that there's things that's related to the entire campus that may not fall exactly into their duties.
Yeah.
Or it may be tangential, it's
Right.
not just them.
Right.
So, yeah.
It may be facilities-based, it could be staff-based, it could be staff training-based, it could be, so any other discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Right?
Do we need to motion to appoint Ryan, or are you just gonna take care of that?
I can designate.
Okay, those work for me.
I do.
I won't move very far.
Okay, next, Tim.
Are you appointing
Board member?
formally appointed
I'll
board
make a
member?
motion to appoint Tim, and to be the primary. For a second,
Second.
all in favor? Anybody volunteering to be a secondary?
I'll take one for the team.
I'll do it if you don't want to, but you can.
Well, you already did one tonight.
Okay,
I was just
you're
saying
right,
that.
absolutely. I nominate Stacy.
I don't mind either.
I nominate Stacy.
Second.
All in favor?
Lunch date.
Next.
Yeah, we're gonna meet, Tim and discuss meeting once a month. I guess what date makes sense, Ruth Allen, based upon your,
And let her set the date.
right, set the date.
If we can do it during the day as opposed to,
Yep. When the SROs are
School, that would be
here,
awesome.
I communicate with them to find out what their better time, or
Yeah.
at least one of them,
Right.
what the better time is, preferably 2 at the beginning.
right,
And
yep,
maybe we can launch one out as needed. And I'll get an agenda tier of my vision, and you can amend it and do whatever you want with it. So, next,
Next,
cable TV broadcast update, is there anything new with that?
yeah, we were looking at a proposal, let's see.
apparently KJ still hasn't forgotten us, but I don't know how much remembering he's done of late.
Can we,
What will it again?
KJ was putting together a proposal for us for potentially replacing our broadcast.
can you follow up with email?
Certainly will.
Remind him.
And then I'd like to tie that in, because we talked about fixed cameras in here and potentially the gym. I'd like to tie that in with the Henry Wilson camera update for one of our vacations or summer, but I'd kind of like to get that scheduled and in the queue.
And the cameras for recording and the cameras for broadcast will likely be 2 separate contracts. The cameras that we're using for broadcasting and the
Right,
cameras
the cameras-
for security.
Yes,
The cameras for the school are going to the DVR, but while they're putting cameras in, they can wire potentially cameras in here and in there that go into that room for what we need. We couldn't, in essence, use the same company, just the cameras are going in different directions.
That's true. That's true.
And we may, after looking at a camera proposal, decide we want to do it separate, but I kind of look at them both at the same time while the people are here to see if it's something that can be accomplished.
yeah, and I think not only the cameras for this meeting, but the sound.
Yeah.
That's the most important, the biggest complaint we have, people watching this meeting, is they cannot hear. Either it's too loud or it's too soft, so we would need a qualified professional to make it work, not us. Unless anybody considers themselves an expert in audio. I don't,
I don't.
So my next on the list is, we've taken a lot of positions that we put into ESSA money. I'd like a plan of how we review and what our method of evaluation is going to be to make sure that we're getting a benefit from these programs. Do we have to change something? Do we have to eliminate something, et cetera? I'd rather find out now than a year and a half after we've invested into the money. I don't have anything in my mind how we're going to do it, but at some point, I think we need to justify how we spent the money and what the positive benefit And it keeps us on our toes of, do we need to tweak something if it wasn't what we initially thought?
Yeah, I agree with that.
My next question is on sports. I know we delegated our masking authority to the athletic director. Just want to ask the board that if this building's in red, do our sports become in red? And how we want to handle that? I'm taking back and looking at pictures of games on social media with mask mandates in place and our staff and our players not wearing them. I think if we set the rule, and I don't know whether that rule was carried down to the coaches and staff, but if we set the rule, I think that rule needs to be followed. I know what my motion will be
And
following that up.
I saw an email reviewing that, and I'm reviewing it today.
Yeah,
It seems like those pictures were not of a school that was in red, or there was some,
the picture that I'd forwarded to you was an away game at another school that does not have a mask requirement for their.
okay, so I don't know if the case that Tim is citing is that one.
Yeah.
Is it Belmont?
No, it was,
Because the game I saw was Belmont.
Okay.
Was here?
Belmont.
It was at Belmont.
At Belmont.
Jamboree, they had a jamboree.
Yep.
Okay.
And there was a mask mandate in place in Belmont. And we weren't following it, but I don't know what direction went down to our sports team, because we did not set the rule on sports. We delegated that to the athletic director.
But if we were doing a jamboree in Belmont, and they had a
be
mask
following Belmont
mandate,
rules.
why wouldn't we be complying?
We should be following Belmont.
I guess that's,
So I
It
guess,
would be up to
I guess
Belmont or
Unless
whoever
they
to
didn't
communicate.
require the players. I thought our kids were in masks that day.
the players weren't required to wear them. in
Oh, because I had to wear it. I went to it.
Yep.
We had to wear masks.
Unless they have
We
one
did
on the side.
PCA and
No,
didn't require any spectators to wear masks,
no.
I think
but our kids did.
yeah. If we visited a school district and they have a mask mandate, I think we need to respect their mask mandate.
We do.
If our high school, if we're playing here, if our high school's in red,
Then,
it should be in
it
red.
should be in red.
Yes,
If we're at the middle school,
Right.
Yeah.
and middle school's in red, then it should be red. And
Yes.
I don't, I'm not a mask fan by any means, but I think we need to follow the rules.
I agree with Tim's assessment, that's how we should be interpreting, and that's how the staff should be
that's what
interpreting.
I.
I mean, we did give some discretion for the athletics director to manage that on a case-by-case basis, but it should be consistent with
If
our
we
policy.
were in red, it was to be in red.
Okay.
And you gave the same consistent guidance with the craft fair. If we're in red, masks are required.
Right.
Which, by the way, is when?
This Saturday.
It's this Saturday.
Saturday.
And it's what hours?
Take it up closer.
10 to 2.
Me too.
10 to 2.
Does that, that includes outside organizations that come in for sports as well, right?
So yes, if we're requiring masks, they need to be masked when they're here. Yes.
Mary?
When you say require masks to be worn, can we add that they're worn properly as opposed to, that's worn, I have my mask on. Or, I have my mask on. There's a protocol. If they're not gonna be taken care of properly, worn properly, then don't even have them. Because all it is a pain for everybody. And while we're on the subject, a year ago, our numbers were in the low 50s. We had a limit of spectators, 2 people at some point. At one point, I don't think we even had spectators. Then we moved to spectators. The most recent numbers now are 61, and we're open to spectators to home games. Somebody explain that to me.
Well, there were no vaccines a year ago.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. There were no vaccines.
Yeah,
We were only in the 50s then. Now we have vaccines and we're in the 60s.
yeah. Because a lot of people haven't got vaccinated.
Well, and I will say that,
Well, they haven't.
I'm sorry, Joe, I disagree. That's not the reason.
You look at the percentage, though, of some of the people right now that are in hospitals, a lot of them are unvaccinated people.
But a lot of people that are contacted,
I know that other people that have had the vaccine have gotten it.
any contacted, so that statement doesn't really read the whole thing, because there's a lot of people who haven't been vaccinated, who have it, who have natural immunity. So I think the depending on which station you're listening to, you're gonna hear what you wanna hear, but I mean, the numbers are the numbers.
right.
Granted, the testing is certainly more, way more prevalent, so they could be a little bit more because everyone is getting tested and readily available for $7 at Walmart.
So we're waiting for tests now than there was back.
So we're okay because of the jab. We are okay that a year ago, when 50 people in Farmington were active, we put the brakes on. Nobody. Go ahead.
I think the other thing that you got to see in the community is a year ago, we were dealing with a different variant. So you may have 1 or 2 people in the household, so 50 people were spread out against a larger number of households. With the variant that we're dealing with now, it's going through an entire household. So 50 could be 10 houses within town. And I think we watch it. We encourage the social distancing. If people can go into a game and sit 6 feet apart and it's safe,
Do we have
I do
some?
want to add something though, that we have a Christmas tournament coming up. 16 teams coming from around the state. There will be a mask requirement at that tournament.
Right.
I have to do that, whether we're in red or not.
Right.
Because I've had schools say, because of the nature of it, it's not like they're just coming to play Farmington.
Right.
They're coming into a gym. Now, we've structured the schedule this year so that boys and girls teams are always playing back to back, so once they're done, they're out. We took our skills competition and 3-point competition and put it on a day when there are less games so that not everybody's hanging around waiting for that to end. But I've told the schools that all spectators and sidelines are required to mask. And, I've had local fans say to me, well, what if we're not in red? I said, we're still going to mask because we've got so many people coming in from out of town. And I've had a lot of people not happy with that. But
And the other thing on my motion with the red too, that I just want to put out there is, at my expertise level, I'm not one to say whether a player is going to wear a mask or not. And I personally think that's dangerous. So my intent of the motion was the kids, and our original policy was the kids sitting on the sidelines, our coaches, our spectators, whatever NHIA, whatever they recommend for the players, then I think that is what we go with, because,
It's only done local. It's local decision.
but then that might be another area for the board to discuss, because I've got a problem with a high school kid running full board down the court playing basketball wearing a mask. I don't think that's healthy. And maybe if we see a change, we can change it, but I want to put that part out for discussion, that I'm not looking for the players while they're on the court, going full board down the court wearing a mask.
I also want to say, in regards to Mary's point, if the majority of this board feels like there's a need to limit spectators, can we please make that decision soon? Because I'll have to cancel the tournament. We cannot pay for the tournament with limited spectators. We just can't. We need the gate. So I just need, we need to know
Well, that,
that.
and when they get here, you can't, their other teammates would be waiting outside, parent would be
Right.
waiting outside, and it's not
So
feasible.
looking today, the active cases showed 50. I just pulled it up, this town, at the
From MUR.
think it's
New
not
Hampshire
updated yet today.
updated list that may not be updated for today, but what it shows on their site is 50 at the state website.
And MUR doesn't MUR and state don't update over the weekend. It's usually late Monday that we get the
Okay,
numbers.
so maybe an update tomorrow, that may change. It may go up, it certainly may. But to follow up on your concern, Mary, I think a year ago, approach to limiting or not having events, school lockdowns and stuff like that has changed. So, I mean, yes, we're reacting different than we did a year ago, but so isn't most districts. I mean, we set a limit of what it's going to be as far as putting the school from green, yellow to red. And right now we're in red on all three schools.
We are, I think, I need to look tonight. I may have one school that may just drop to yellow. But
Okay. So, and
I haven't looked to see what the last,
Which school?
it might be Valley View. But there's another one I was waiting for a call back on, so we'll see.
yeah. I mean, we there's been an expected uptick based seasonally and people coming indoors and more holidays. And I assume that's the cause for the increased numbers. But I'm not a COVID expert, but I think,
Yeah, that 50 number that was updated tonight at 7:42, so that's pretty accurate.
okay. So,
I did not make that as a motion, by the way.
right. But I didn't know if you want to follow up with that
So
discussion.
I think, so Tim, you did have a motion though, tied to yours, did you not?
And that's-
Yeah, I'll just make a motion that we require, when our buildings are in red, the building where the game is being played for is in red, or a district that we visit has a mask mandate, that we respect those rules, the masks are worn appropriately.
I'll second for discussion. In my discussion, I believe our policy already states that, but if it needs to be additionally clarified, that's fine.
Yeah, my understanding was when we did our update this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we delegated our sports to the athletic director.
We did.
With my input, yes.
Okay.
But
I understood it, that the policy was already what you stated. The only thing that if we have a school that comes here, if we are not in red, so we're mask free for those that feel comfortable. If we have a school come to play that says we want you to wear masks, that we would also kindly also wear them. I mean, it's either that or they don't play the game.
Right.
We've had that happen. I don't know if we've had it happen here. I know other districts have.
other districts have, I mean, pretty much the way the athletic directors have been doing it is house rules. And so if they're truly uncomfortable with the house rules of where they're going, they've just kind of opted not to go.
There is one school that I know of, and there's probably more, Eric may know. There is one school and they are a private school, but their trustee board voted that if any school that they travel to requires them to wear masks, they are going to officially forfeit the game and not play at all. And that's if they have to wear masks.
Right.
Very against wearing masks.
Everybody or just the athletes?
Huh?
Against athletes and spectators or just
If the athletes are required to wear masks.
Okay.
Now, I've sent an email out, I just heard that today. I sent an email out because that school is coming here. It's Holy Family over in Manchester. And I said, I'm just letting you know, there'll be a sideline requirement for masks. So if you need out, get out now so that I can adjust the schedule. I haven't heard back yet, so maybe they go into the Board of Trustees. I don't know, but
Yeah,
Any other discussion on the
I
motion?
just want to be clear on the motion that unless otherwise recommended by NHIA, that the masking requirement does not apply to the players.
on the sideline it does though, right?
On the sideline it does.
Okay.
The players are physically on the court.
Physically on the court, yeah. Let me just ask another question, just to clarify. That essentially affects players and coaches. Because I'll give you an example. I kept the book for our team the other night at PCA at their official score table, and I didn't wear a mask.
But they don't have a mask mandate.
Correct.
right? But we were in red, but I don't really
Right.
work here. Or,
It goes.
I mean, I would be exempt
It goes
from
by-
that, right?
It's the building.
It's the building.
It's
If
home rule.
PCA was in red,
Our red status doesn't carry with us to PCA.
Right.
Red status is here.
So
I
it's,
thought, wait a minute.
it's what.
Then what are we talking about Belmont for?
because
Belmont had a mask mandate.
Belmont had a mask mandate.
And
For the spectators, or did they have it for the kids? I don't know. I thought our kids wore masks on the sidelines.
some of them did, some of them didn't in the pictures I looked at, and some of our employees didn't have them on.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I will say this, and I saw it all last year. When coaches are yelling during the game, they go like this and yell, and then they usually go back up. Last year,
But the
when-
whole point of this is to keep them from
I get that,
yelling
I
at.
know. Last year, when I announced the game, I pulled this down to announce, and then I would pull it back up. Just so you could hear me.
And, I mean, maybe you had a drink or food in front of you, and you can take your mask down to eat or drink, so there's that too.
Yeah, and, well, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
My point in making the motion is I saw it last year, over and over and over again. And if our employees and our kids that want to play sports can't play by the rule, I've got another solution that I don't want to bring forward. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Follow the rules or
We set the policy, we're clarifying it by this motion. Hopefully it'll get rid of any misinterpretation. Any other discussion on the motion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Who was the second? I'm sorry, I missed
I was.
that. Thank you.
I'm abstaining.
Tim, next.
that's all I have for now. Everything else is
I'm
non-public.
sure you said 14, I can't count it.
He said 15.
15.
I used my SAU math skills for counting real quick.
I think that's school board math.
I'm good.
I'll put my math skills up against just about anybody.
And Tim does fine with
I
it.
don't know, I haven't run across head-to-head with Kathleen yet, but let's just see if she's any competition. I know Mary usually can give me a run for my money.
What's the division of nucleus divided by the atomic power?
We'll
Times
discuss that
square.
later. You haven't finished the first extra credit question. Okay, any other old business? You sure? It's only 8 o'clock. Okay, no, hearing no further old business, we'll open up for public participation. You sure? We did have an interim meeting announcement of a craft fair this weekend,
We did. 10 to 2
10 to 2.
This,
at the high school.
At the high
In the
school.
gym.
NASA required.
That's
required.
required, yeah.
Any other public announcements? Soon to come, a vaccine clinic possibly in January?
I will have more information out. I meet with Stratford County Health the first part of next week. We're still emailing back and forth on the date for that meeting to nail down all the other details.
Do we, on that vaccine clinic, do we know if Milton's done anything over there? Because I know on our first two, their staff were invited over here.
Yep, they have done some, but what I had proposed to Ashley is that we would be opening it up to the area.
Right.
So I certainly wouldn't, I would put it out on Facebook, and if they sign up and they're on the other side of the line, that's fine.
Milton is having one for ages 5 through 15, 16, whatever that teen level is. They're doing that. It may even be this week,
Okay.
but that's within their school.
Their school,
district. That's
right.
not- that's not-
They're running it like an in-house flu clinic, I
Exactly.
believe, so.
Exactly.
If we need to hit a certain number, or if Stratford County gives us a number to hit, then, we can do some of our advertisement to make sure that it's,
Right, and then the other concern is if we get a lot of interest, if there is a maximum, they might want to let us know.
Yeah. No,
So say we have
Yeah.
300 doses or 400 doses, then last thing we want to do is have a huge push and exceed that.
no, what I would do is then put out and say I have X many doses. I would, when we did our registration last time, I sent it out as a Google form, it populates by by time and first come, first served, here's the cutoff.
Unless you're at the Elton Traffic Circle and the superintendent calls and says, I got 4 vaccines if you want one. How soon can you be here?
Well, yep, that did happen.
It did.
Yes, our own came in and announced it at FOP.
Yep.
So not hearing any other public participation, our next meeting is scheduled for next Monday. Hey, surprise. And we got some manifests to sign, and I'm gonna make a motion to go into non-public session under 91A:3, 2, A, B, and C, nominations and resignations. And wish everyone a good night. Seconded by Stacy. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes.